We all know that the repair skills of the Pakistani brothers are considered top-notch worldwide. However, the repair process in these videos today was extremely difficult, and almost ended in failure. In total, no less than 6 or 7 people worked on this for a whole day. And even an excavator joined the repair effort in the end. Of course, not to repair the excavator itself, but rather to help repair, which is probably a rare sight. Hi there. Welcome back to Tony Industry channel. What is it talking about? It's the guy in front of us. Which looks rather strange. At first, I thought it was just some kind of giant electric motor device, but on closer inspection, it clearly doesn't need that at all. If you look closely, this big guy is covered in weird striped markings, and the stripes are very deep too. Some friends are probably wondering now if this thing is a large transmission gear, but what do you think? Friends may have thought the same, but I feel like given the arrangement and width of this thing, it can't possibly be a gear. No one could use it to transmit power. So let's try replacing it with another gear for transmission. What could it be? It's really hard to determine. Sometimes friends may think that I clearly know what is being repaired here, but I'm just keeping it a mystery. I can say very, very sincerely and responsibly that I truly don't know what this is repairing. I don't recognize it. Alright, let's not get caught up in figuring out what this thing is used for mechanically or what its purpose is. Let's first take a look at where it's damaged and needs repairing. Which makes it so difficult that even an excavator has to help repair it in the end. This is probably the most difficult repair the Pakistani brothers have done in their videos. So now, let's roughly observe the structure of this big guy. In the middle is a shaft. At the very beginning of the video, a bearing was knocked off from this direction, burnt beyond recognition. So this judgment is that there's one bearing on each side of the shaft, with this L-shaped part in the middle. Did you notice that detail just now? No? That pipe that we're just going to call it for now has a very large crack on it. Could it be because of this crack that caused the need for repair? That's also a possibility, right? And it's obvious that the 2 bearings on both ends will need to be removed by burning. So they will probably need to be replaced by the end too. Alright, the excavator finally shows up. It seems taking out this shaft is still rather difficult, so the Pakistani brothers didn't use the traditional sledgehammer to smash it directly. Instead, they brought in an excavator and used its hammer, which has considerable force. I believe everyone knows that using it to vibrate will loosen this shaft so it can be taken out. But it sounds easier said than done. In reality it looks still quite difficult. Because the contact area is relatively small, even for the Pakistani brothers, let alone the excavator operator, his skills are still very good. He quickly found the right contact point on the die-cast body and pressed it down slightly so that it tilts downward a little. And some oil needs to be poured here to lubricate it a bit. But everyone can observe closely the position of the oil can's bottom and the very large dent already made by the hammer on the shaft. Otherwise this excavator definitely wouldn't have been able to apply force. From this angle, if I'm not wrong, it shouldn't take too long before this assembly can be pried out. If an excavator can't hammer this shaft out in this way, then it's probably game over. Next let's see if the excavator joining the repair crew can successfully hammer this shaft out. At this point, the Pakistani brother made a very serious mistake, using this method to let the excavator's hammer swing down. That hammer has tremendous force, and any slight mistake could send it flying up, so this approach is not advisable. Just let it slowly chip away on its own. As a result, the crack on the roller from before was very small, but now it looks like under the excavator's brute force, the crack has become very serious and will probably need repairing and welding afterwards. After all that effort hammering it down for a while, it doesn't seem to show any signs of budging. It appears that I also feel the direction to remove the shaft may be wrong. Don't worry, let's see how they try to resolve this issue. It looks like there's been some progress. The left leg on top, that sleeve seems to have come off a bit. Looks like success in removing this shaft is imminent. The excavator's gotta keep at it. Okay, taking another look, the previously hammered down bamboo pipe is probably crucial. Once that shaft sleeve was removed, it took just 2 hits to knock the shaft out. But I'd say success in the repair is still far away. Thanks to the excavator's efforts, the roller is cracked beyond recognition now. And at this point, it's quite intriguing what this thing is used for. Clearly the size is bigger than the excavator's tracks. I wonder if friends noticed what this could possibly be used for. If you can't figure it out, just run away. Now all the parts have been disassembled, next comes the repair. But some components in the assembly haven't been fully removed yet. Having no choice, the excavator has to be called over again to lend its strength. For this episode, what do you think of the repair difficulty? Just taking it apart took so much effort that the excavator had to step in, and it still wasn't fully disassembled. So what kind of repair method is needed? Don't worry, let's keep watching. Just now, the excavator removed that thing which should be the flanges on both ends of the rod, with 4 screws, meant to be mounted to this. I completely understand this section of the structure now. It looks simple, without any other cracks that are very serious indeed. Without the excavator stepping in, such a huge accident and damage wouldn't have happened. To repair this big guy, these Pakistani brothers really went through a huge effort. Although disassembly is complete, repairing it won't necessarily be an easy task either. That housing, the roller that we're just going to keep calling it, is clearly cracked pretty badly. This thing looks to be cast iron, so welding is obviously not realistic. What to do? This workshop seems to have quite complete spare parts and components, so a new housing is used directly, as can be seen from the rusty stripes. But there is a very serious problem here. I don't know if friends noticed, the flanges from the roller disassembled earlier were tried on but seem to be slightly smaller. So they can't be used. How should this be dealt with? Don't worry, let's keep watching. First, the shaft needs some simple grinding on the inside. After all, it's been there a long time and rusted heavily. And this thing, upon closer observation by me, seems to have a lot of cement or limestone deposits inside. What is this thing specifically used for? Could it be a roller on some large mixing device? It's hard to say. The details can tell, that bamboo pipe hammered in earlier, its position is where it cracked. So the next issue to resolve is the flanges being too small. What to do? Don't worry, let's continue watching. Here the 2 brothers brought an iron plate, took some measurements. And if I'm not wrong, next they will use this plate to fill the gap between the 2 flanges. How will they do it? Don't worry, let's keep watching. Indeed, they measured and cut the iron plate to wrap it directly around the shaft's exterior. This makes up for the insufficient material and fills the gap. However, at this point it's hard to say if the strength can be guaranteed. Those 2 things obviously have different hardness after all. The big roller is sand-casted, not forged. Of course, whether the steel plate can be welded on depends on the type and model of the seam. This should be clear to everyone. But repairing it this way, the Pakistani brothers must have their reasoning. Once fixed, it should still withstand use. After the welding repair is done, next is installation. Taking it apart took so much effort, installing won't necessarily be a breeze either. But now the excavator definitely can't be used for installation, in case the housing gets wrecked again by accident. For installation, it's safer to slowly hammer it in with a sledgehammer. Installing the 2 housings, the 2 nipples, is relatively easier. Don't forget there's still that troublesome shaft waiting. These 2 are fine, but installing the shaft will definitely be a bit tricky. Let's see how the Pakistani brothers handle this. I don't know if fans and learned experts watching this can figure out what exactly this is. Some mechanical part or component? Feel free to take a guess. Anyway, nobody figured out the roller's side plugs. Now, even though installation is done, the sledgehammer hasn't rested. After tightening the screws just now, the hammer kept pounding away. Next, the pipe needs to be stood upright. It's very heavy. Everyone can count, it took 8 Pakistani brothers to stand this pipe up. Everyone can imagine what this iron table brought over next is for. I can't figure it out either. Don't worry, let's keep watching, it'll become clear. I see, so this feat of strength is on full display here. With the help of this Pakistani brother's mighty sledgehammer. The two sides of this big guy finally went into place. Next is to install this shaft. Clearly the weight is very heavy, manpower moving is unrealistic, so a loader is used to hoist it directly and slip the shaft through. Easier said than done, there's still some difficulty. There's a detail here I don't know if everyone noticed. On the side of the shaft, the Pakistani brother's foot position, underneath is actually an oxygen tank, but I don't know if it was oxygen before. In fact, gas cutting is very common in these kinds of repair shops. But if the gas tank is placed haphazardly like the Pakistani brother did, there is still some risk. Actually, the Pakistani brother's safety awareness seems rather weak. We often see in some videos the Pakistani brothers operating all kinds of dangerous tools barefoot or in slippers. Engaging in all sorts of high-risk labor, but without any safety protection at all. I've always wondered if it's really that the Pakistani brothers' safety awareness is so weak, or if safety equipment simply can't be found there. Next is installing these two large bearings. These bearings are very heavy, so how to install them? Still using the burning method. There's a saying, big factories use hydraulic pullers, small ones use fire, roadside stands use sledgehammers. Clearly the Pakistani brothers combined the methods of roadside stands and small workshops, other than burning, just sledgehammer bashing. For such big parts, cold installation is obviously unrealistic. And there are no pullers there, so only burning is left. Heating the bearings slightly utilizes thermal expansion and contraction principles to enlarge the bearings a bit, so slipping them on is a little easier. So that's it for this video. If you like my content, don't forget to follow. I share some interesting mechanical and car videos daily, including some interesting brain teasers. Really hope everyone can support me more. Next, I wish my fans and subscribers who often watch my videos good health and that everything goes smoothly. This episode is done. Thanks everyone for watching, see you next time.